Welcome to the SLYR podcast by East Idaho Credit Union. I am Stephen. With me, as always, is Bailey, and today's guest, Ashley Sutton from the Haircut Box.
I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's so flattering.
Don't feel flattered. This is not going to be fun for you. Yeah.
Like you said earlier, you're going to find a way to make me cry. Right. So hopefully that doesn't happen.
No. We'll be nice to you. Don't worry. Okay, so let's start off with, what is the Haircut Box? Explain it to me.
Okay, so the Haircut Box is a box full of anything you need to give a really good haircut at home. So I did hair professionally for 14 years, and I was like, it is time for me to teach moms and dads how to do this at home. So I put together all high-end professional grade tools in a box with instructions, and then on my page I do tutorials and teach.
I love that.
How to give haircuts.
So I cut my son's hair.
I like you more already.
Poorly. But I do it. And you should probably start cutting Sterling's hair, her husband's.
So he called me like an hour before this podcast. And he was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what happened. She botched my haircut. It's so bad. I don't know what to do. He's like, what do I do? Where are you at so I can come show you so you can help find a solution? I was like,
what do you want me to do right now?
Yeah. So then I was like, it's just the perfect day. I just need to get a haircut box.
Yeah.
It is time.
I think he just went to bed depressed, I think.
Yeah.
Right? He's in bed right now.
Probably.
And you know what? Honestly, that is what I hear over and over and over again, where people are like, my husband or I just took my kids into the salon. They got their haircut.
Yeah.
They didn't like it. I paid for it. I spent time doing it. And somehow we've got to fix it. So it's like, there's a lot of things that like turn in their brains to where it actually makes sense. Like if I'm paying for this and don't like it, I might as well learn to do this and save myself the time, save myself the money, the frustration.
And at least if I didn't like it, it's my fault.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I didn't have to, spend money to do something I hated.
Right.
Interesting.
It's so true.
Yeah. So I'll say I have purchased, I feel like once a year, I'll go to Walmart and get like the haircut trimmer set, and it'll fall apart, it'll break, or I hate the scissors or something like this. Always happens, and so I always replace it with like the same thing basically. And so I don't know how much money I have into this type of equipment. It's probably obscene though over the years. So what's different about yours versus what I would go and grab at Walmart?
Such a good question. And I feel like that question is what is in most people's brains.
Yeah.
Of like, because mine is a chunk of change.
Yeah.
Mine obviously is an investment. And we did that for a reason. So like I said, I did hair professionally for 14 years. But when I decided to do this box, I was like, I've got to figure out what is going to go in this box. I don't want someone to have to replace it every year because in the long run, like you said, you've now wasted a lot of money.
It's crazy.
It's right.
Yeah.
And so
I could have bought a car, I bet. Yeah.
Right. So I was on a mission and I bought clippers of every price range. Like I went to Walmart and I bought the $25 set. I bought the $70 set. I bought the $300 set.
Right.
And I bought everything in between. And I was like, I've got to find the best clipper for the best price that's going to last people a long time.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. And I tried out dozens and dozens of clippers. And I feel like I found one that is a high-end clipper, like a salon grade clipper, but isn't going to break the bank. Like you don't need a $300 pair of clippers, but also the $25 pair of clippers isn't going to cut it. Yeah. No pun intended. So
yes, very nice.
So what's different about our boxes? Our tools actually will help you get a better cut, a cleaner cut, a quicker cut. With people that are using the cheap tools, a lot of times it's like it's pulling the hair or they break or there's so many things that could go wrong with a cheap pair of clippers. And I didn't want that. Like when I was trying out the cheap clippers, it was hard for me to get a good haircut. And I know what I'm doing. Right. So it's like if that was frustrating for me and it was hard for me to get a cool haircut, like I can't even imagine someone without experience, how they would feel.
Yeah,
so
describing my life. Yeah.
I'm speaking to your soul. So
it's always the scissors. The scissors are
scissors.
so bad in those.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And you know what? I actually had a lot of people say your boxes are never going to sell. They're too expensive. And it's like, if you understand what the purpose of it is for, like I despise wasting money, which is buying cheap stuff, falling apart, going to the salon anyways, because if you don't know what you're doing and using cheap tools, it's never going to look great.
Yeah.
So that's why we decided to put everything in the box that was high-end salon quality tools. So that's mainly what sets us apart, our high quality tools and all the instructions.
Yeah.
So
you're not getting that at Walmart.
You're not getting that at Walmart.
No,
right.
You're definitely not.
Right. And so, I mean, I know that there's people look at home haircuts and they're like, oh, you can tell when it's a home haircut, right? Like your poor son, maybe. Can you tell it's a home haircut?
I mean, you probably could. Yeah.
Well, my goal is to take home haircuts, but change that. Right? It's like, I want these haircuts to look really cool. We all want our kids to look really cool. But we don't want to spend the time. We don't want to spend the money in the salon. And so with the boxes, I'm hoping that you can get the same haircut without sacrificing the look.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Gosh, you remind me of something my grandpa used to always say. He always used to say, buy quality, take care of it, and it'll take care of you.
Oh my gosh, so true.
Yeah.
So true.
So it's worth making the right kind of investment for something you're going to keep for a long time.
Right.
And that's going to take care of you ultimately.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's one of the main things at the very beginning that we decided to do. We could put cheap stuff in the boxes and we can make them a lot cheaper. But in the long run, it wouldn't do what we would hope our business would do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's why we call it an investment. It's like you're going to invest in this box, but then in turn, we'll take care of your family.
Yeah.
The other cool thing is our boxes pay for themselves in like 12 to 14 haircuts. So it really, it truly is an investment because it's like, okay, how many haircuts do you have to do in order for this to pay for itself?
Yeah.
Instead of you're going to have to replace it year after year. You know what I mean?
Have you started doing tutorials on how to cut your own hair?
You know
Have
what?
you considered this?
I get questions all the time.
Because those are the ones, not just like, oh, they got their haircut at home. It's the ones where they're like, oh, they definitely cut their own hair.
Oh, we know, yes. There is no question. I get questions often about, like, can you please help us cut our own hair?
Yeah.
And my answer is always, I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think you should do it. Like,
is it ever women that ask? I feel like that's
it's
always
actually mostly women.
Really?
That makes
Yeah,
sense to me.
it's mostly women. I do have a
Interesting.
brother-in-law who cuts his own hair, and it looks awesome.
No.
Wow.
It looks so good.
Incredible.
I posted a tutorial about it. And it's, anyway.
Hmm.
But when women ask me, I'm like, just save the money on your kids and then go get your haircut done at the salon.
Ladies' hair costs like when I go to the barber shop, I'm $25 out the door,
Right.
$30. What's it cost you, Bailey?
A lot more.
Yeah.
Double.
Yeah.
At least. Yeah.
Right. And you know what? A lot of moms take the money that they've saved and spend it on themselves. And I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
I think it's so cool to have a goal in mind
Mhm.
because if we're being completely honest, it can be overwhelming to learn how to cut hair. It can be, it takes some practice. There's a learning curve.
Mhm.
And so I think for all these moms that are doing that, you should have a goal in mind. If it's getting your hair cut or getting your hair colored or spending it on, I don't know, going out to get dinner or whatever it is, I think it's cool to have a goal in mind so it makes the process of learning a little bit less painful.
That's good advice for just life generally.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So how did this happen? How did you decide to start this company? I just saw on your social media yesterday was your 3-year anniversary.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I cannot even believe it's been 3 years.
Yeah.
It's wild.
So transport us back in time for a minute here.
Okay.
To probably more than 3 years ago. Why did you decide to do this?
Okay. I did hair professionally for 14 years.
Mhm.
I've always been super into budgeting. I've always been super into like making the most of my dollar and having a good time.
Mhm.
Like I've always been guilty of probably playing too much. So when I was thinking about what I wanted to do, I knew I'd wanted to do something for a long time. And I had to think of, okay, what am I good at? I'm really good at having fun. I'm really good at budgeting.
I love that. That's like my top skill.
I love
having
it.
a great time.
I'm having a good time.
I'm the original party gal, right?
Right. I was like, but let's see, how would I do a business around that? I don't know. So I had fun. I was pretty intentional with how I spent my dollar.
Yeah.
And I was really good at doing haircuts.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, the idea kind of evolved into, well, what if I could teach how to give haircuts, but also find a way to incorporate all those other things? Because teaching haircuts would probably get really boring to me. Budgeting would probably get really boring to me. Having fun never is boring, but maybe not as much substance.
Sure.
So I, when I put together this box or this idea of teaching how to give haircuts, I was like, I think I can make this into a lifestyle thing, because my husband and I would always get asked the question, like, how have you created this lifestyle? Like, how do you do the things that you do? Because we weren't making a ton of money, but we were playing a lot. and it's always kind of a weird question, because they always alluded to we were making a lot of money, and I'm like, no, we just make choices. We save on things so we can spend on other things. Yeah. Like, I don't go to Target and just blow $100. We don't go out to eat a lot. I don't have the nicest and the newest clothes. You know what I mean? Like, all these things that we had intentionally chose to save on, but then we would have snowmobiles and dirt bikes and a camper. And so it's like we saved where we could so we could spend where we wanted. And so this whole thing kind of evolved into, this is the skill that I can teach others. Like, this is the tangible value that I can give others. But because of this tangible skill, you'll be able to do X, Y, and Z. So that's kind of how it all evolved. And I think that's why, like, it just keeps the fire lit. Yeah. Because it's more than just haircuts.
Yeah, it's that's just
it's
the
just
thing.
It's just the thing. It's just the tangible skill.
But that's not why you do it.
That's not why you do it. And it's cool, because as soon as people understand that, it becomes a no-brainer. Yeah. Right? It's like, oh my gosh, I could save $80 this month, and I could take that $80 and go do something fun with my family. Yeah. Or I could, so it's more of a choice of how you're going to spend your money and where you're going to spend your money.
Yeah, I can't help but think about what happened yesterday. We're all sitting there, and Bailey runs in out of breath. They just restocked those Stanley mugs at Target, and there's a limit, so everybody get in the car. We're all going.
We're on our way.
We gotta go.
Yeah, when you said I don't go to Target, I was like, that is a really good tip for me. I needed that.
Sometimes I go to Target, but if I have a goal in mind, I try to limit my Target runs.
Oh, it's smart. Bailey had a goal in mind. Don't you worry.
She was on a mission.
She was definitely on a mission. So it's funny. We're walking in, and I'm like, I bet they only have like avocado green left.
Right.
Like so we roll up there. There's literally one left.
And it's green.
And it's avocado green. You're like, I don't even care. I'm doing it. It's a restock.
I bought it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That is so funny.
Yeah. But I think your point is really well taken. And I think, what we do as, part of a credit union is we really try to help our membership understand how to help build a better life for themselves. And so much of that can be done through just smart budgeting, through their their finances. It's pretty amazing, actually, what you can do if you're smart and intentional about it.
Right. There's this really cool quote that I love. It said, instead of trying to make ends meet, try to have less ends. So it's like, you don't always need more money.
Yeah.
Like, more money isn't always the answer.
You got halfway through that, and I was like, I wonder how this is going to end. I was trying to finish it in my head.
Finish my sentence?
Yeah. So I came up with.
Don't do that.
Yeah, let me hear how you finish that.
Something about meat's end or something, which is kind of close, right? Right. I thought maybe there was a barbecue reference in there. Yeah.
I told my husband that a couple months ago, and he was like, I don't get it. What do you mean? And I'm like, you have less things to pay for.
He's like, maybe try a barbecue reference next time, and maybe I'll get it.
Let's think of a different quote. I don't understand. Your brain works a little different than mine does right there. But it's so true. It's like, I think a lot of people are like, we got to get more and more and more and more and more, but they're not looking at the root cause of the problem.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is, what is that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where it's like, you just have to spend less than you make, which is like the basic of
It seems
finance.
simple,
It
right?
seems simple.
But
And why
it's
is it so
hard.
hard? Why is it so hard?
Yeah.
So I think with the boxes, I think that's what it's so fun for me because I get to push so many things that I'm passionate and interested about, like the money and the playing and the haircuts and trying to do things yourself and then getting that fulfillment. And it's really cool. It's a really fun business to be a part of.
Okay, I love it because you started with a real purpose. Instead of like your purpose wasn't like, hey, maybe I could make a few shekels off these things. You had a real reason to do what you were doing, which I just love. So you have the idea. How does it happen? How does it come together?
Oh, how long do you have? So I had never really started a business. I knew nothing about Instagram. I knew nothing about e-commerce. I knew nothing about manufacturing products. Yeah. And I had the same question, like, how do I do this? I don't know. And so I just started. And I started researching, like, where to buy this, where to get this, where to, like lots and lots and lots of dead ends. Then I started with trying the products. So I bought products, like I was telling you earlier, in all different price ranges. And I finally narrowed those down. And then I did the scissors. I tried scissors of every price range. I didn't like any of them. And so I'm like, I got to produce my own. I got to manufacture my own. And so
did you design your own scissors? Why does that seem so crazy to me?
It is crazy.
Yeah,
it's totally crazy.
It feels crazy.
It felt crazy.
It feels like there should be scissors,
right,
that work.
There
that
are
there
scissors
today.
that work, but they're like $300.
Crazy. Oh my gosh. And my barber told me, don't call them scissors.
Shears.
I was reprimanded for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, for this purpose, we could call them scissors.
Okay, I like it.
We can do that.
Okay.
We're more casual, right? I won't get mad at you.
You took it very seriously.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, shears cost $300, but my shears are like the same quality, but so much more affordable. And I knew that, I couldn't put a $300 pair of clippers. I couldn't put a $300 pair of shears in the box. I couldn't do all of these things because then really no one would buy it.
Yeah.
And so we created our own scissors. We actually did a national survey.
Oh, interesting.
It was so interesting to gather lots and lots of data of what people actually would want. Like, what is your pain point with getting haircuts in the salon? What is your pain point with giving haircuts at home? What, all these different questions, and we gathered a whole bunch of data and we analyzed it and then really had some solid data to go off of this is what people are struggling with. And then just with my personal experience, I knew this is what I'm going to put in, even though people don't know that they need this in order to get the haircut that I want them to be able to do. So that was such a long, hard process, if I'm being honest. So I started in November and I launched in April. Yeah. And I would probably get up at like 5, 6 in the morning, work till my kids went to school. And then I would work again until they got home from school. And then I would work every night till midnight. And it was, there were so many times, we call them burn the ship moments. Like, just burn the ships. I want to give up. This is so hard.
I hate this.
Yeah. And the hardest thing about it is every single day I did something new that I didn't know how to do. Every single day, it was a huge hurdle to jump over. And it was like, okay, I have a choice to make. I can either give up at this hurdle or I can find a way over this hurdle. Yeah.
Well, imagine who you were 3.5 years ago to today.
Right.
Probably dramatically different.
Yeah. And, even I think all business owners are similar in the fact that you could ask all of them and they would all say, we're all just learning. Still to this day, 3 years later, I'm like, I'm still just kind of winging it in ways. And then you look back and think, holy moly, I have learned so much. You know what I mean? So it's a funny balance how that works of I don't know much and I've learned so much.
Well, I think it teaches you a level of humility.
100%.
Because you're just confronted with something that you're completely unprepared for like every day.
100%.
It's really interesting because we've had some, I don't know, this might be our 18th or 19th podcast we've recorded, and we've had some very successful people on, and they all say that. They're all just like, I don't know what I'm doing, guys. I'm just,
It's so
I'm
true.
just doing the best I can.
It's so true.
And these are some legitimately brilliant people as well, or at least what we would all consider brilliant people. But it teaches you this level of humility, even though they're very accomplished and can do a lot of things. They also know what they can't do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is really interesting.
And it's okay to know what you can't do.
I think it's really important, actually.
It's really important. And that was a big lesson that I needed to learn because I wanted to be able to do everything. And I wanted to be this superhuman of I can do all the things. And in reality, I can do a lot of things, but I can't do all the things. You know?
Yeah, isn't that so hard to just confront yourself with just, man, I guess I'm an idiot.
So true. I think that's one of the hardest things about starting a business is being honest with yourself and giving yourself grace and and patience and all these things that is really difficult to be honest about.
Yeah. Yeah. And the ones that don't go anywhere are the ones who won't confront that in themselves.
Totally.
Yeah. It's so interesting. Okay. So you go through the process of figuring out the product lineup that you're going to put into one of these things. And then how do you launch it? Like, how do you say, okay, world, here it is.
Here I am.
Yeah.
Well, I had 742 followers when I launched, and that felt massive. One of the most scary things for me to do is get in front of a group of people and talk. And I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I can't get on Instagram every day
mm-hmm.
and talk about my product. And I was still in the state of, I'm embarrassed to even speak about this because I don't know if this is going to go. I don't know if this is going to flop. If this flops, I'm going to feel like the biggest idiot, right?
Yeah.
And so that was a hurdle that I had to get over. It's kind of like a muscle. Like the more you use it, the stronger you get. I mean, sometimes I still get nervous to be on social media, but I had to push through that.
You're so good at it, by the way.
Oh,
You're so good at it.
That's very nice of you. Sometimes still I have to record something, push submit, and set my phone down and walk away. Like, it is what it is. I don't know.
Well, there's such it's so interesting to sit here and talk to you because I've watched a bunch of your social media. You're the exact same person in real life.
Like, that is a huge compliment.
There is nothing. There's nothing different about what you portray there versus what I'm talking to now.
That is a really big compliment, and honestly, that was a big choice I had to make at the beginning too. I remember when even before I launched, something big worldwide happened, and I remember seeing all these influencers, and they were all doing a similar thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is that what I should be doing? Should I be doing that? Like, it was just like this pinball of like, what should I be saying? What shouldn't be saying? And I had to just like turn inside of, this is my thing.
Yeah.
This is me as a person. How do I want to portray myself on Instagram?
Right.
And that was, as hard as that was, it was super pivotal.
Yeah.
And I've remembered that so many times of, it doesn't matter what anyone else does. It just matters of how I want to run my business and how I want to portray myself. So you asked about launching the product.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you've watched me on social media, you know that my whole life is basically the purpose of the haircut box.
Yeah.
And so I never run out of content, right? Because my life is my content.
Yeah.
And so before I launched, my sister-in-law asked me, she said, do you want to be a product page with a box that teaches how to give home haircuts, or do you want to be a mom who has a box? And it was the easiest answer. I'm like, oh, I definitely want to be a mom who has a box because that's who I am. Mm-hmm. And so I just started like opening up a little bit more of, because I do this is why we can do this. But you know what I mean? Like doing all of those things. And that was so hard to be vulnerable because I mean, I'm kind of a quirky person. And it was like, am I really going to show people into my real life? Like that feels very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I just started doing it a little at a time. And it was so cool, the response that I got. It was like, wow, that makes sense. Like that's intriguing why you do things. And so that's how I launched, talked about haircuts a ton, talked about what I was going to do, why we were going to do it. And launch day was the scariest day. 3 years ago, yesterday, I just remember having every emotion under the book. And we sold out in, I think think it was 2.5 hours.
Wow.
My goal for the year was to sell 50 boxes in the year.
Uh-huh.
And we sold in 2.5 hours. I'm like,
crazy.
Well, here we
I
are.
remember watching that video. I think it was like your son in the room with just all the boxes. And you're like,
yes.
Launching tomorrow. And
Yes.
You could hear like the nerves in your voice as you're
So many nerves.
you're doing it.
So many nerves.
It's so funny.
But launch day was amazing. I mean, launch day, I remember I kept the kids home from school because it's been a family business from day one.
Yeah.
They have literally done the work alongside of me. Like they were my fulfillment team for the first year.
I think I saw your boy like getting one of those boxes like folded up.
Yes, and one of the questions
funny.
was like, what don't we know about you? And it's like, when I say that my kids work alongside of me, they are literally packing boxes and unpacking things. And I mean, they work their guts out. And so when we launched, I was like, you got it. Since you've done so much work, I want you to be here in launch day. Anyway, we all huddled around the computer and watched. You can see a live, the live thing of all the orders coming in. And it was just like, I can't even describe the feeling. It was just such a cool thing to know this is actually going to go.
Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh,
happen.
this is a real thing.
Yeah, this idea actually wasn't stupid. The imposter syndrome was telling myself, for months.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
So it was really cool.
That's got to be incredible. So you probably ran into the other problem that people have, which is you sold out and then you were like, oh crap. Now what?
Right.
Yeah.
And not only that, but I launched a week after the world shut down. So it was like
everybody was.
You are sold out, and now everything's gone.
Yeah,
and you can't get it. And so that was the
and a
biggest
product
challenge
that probably everybody needed. Cause I didn't get my hair cut for a year and a half.
Totally.
I think something like that.
Totally.
Yeah.
So that's when I had to start making some pretty big investments in myself. Of I will buy every pallet you have of the clippers.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was like they would rather sell to me.
Yeah.
They would buy 500 pair versus 1 or 2 here and
Right.
there. And so I really had to make some big investments of product coming in.
Yeah.
That was my biggest hurdle, was
Sure.
keeping things in stock, which is obviously a fabulous problem to have. But it was so stressful because all these people wanted it and there was nothing I could do. And you know what I mean? It was hard to be the middleman of, I want to sell you this product, but I don't have it. So
it's the classic like victim of your own success storyline for a small business, because what you don't have in that moment is like the capital to just throw at it to solve the problem.
Right.
You've seen so many businesses start with a bang and then instantly die for that reason. And you managed to figure out how to get through it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Which is awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. That covers like the first couple months of your existence. What happens next? Like how do you go from launch to where you're at today?
At East Idaho Credit Union, we offer startup loans for emerging businesses to help support you in the early stages of growth. This could be for inventory, equipment, or other operating expenses. Almost all businesses qualify. Get started today by visiting us at eastidahocu.org/start, federally insured by the NCUA.
That covers like the first couple months of your existence. What happens next? Like how do you go from launch to where you're at today?
I feel like the way that we have really pushed our business and helped it succeed was by not selling haircut boxes.
Yeah, that's right.
And I know that sounds backwards, but I don't want to get on and just sell.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get on and I want to provide so much value.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm giving away thousands of dollars worth of free content, right? Like hundreds of hours worth of tutorials of, I truly want you to give good haircuts. I truly want you to succeed. I'm pushing value like fire hose style.
Right.
And I'm also explaining and showing the purpose of it.
Yeah.
And
as I go through your content, I bet where you talk about the actual product itself, I bet it's maybe less than 5% of your content.
It's so true.
Yeah. It's very little.
It is very little.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't mind doing that. I mean, I'm very proud of our boxes and I'm very proud of our products, but it just feels weird to sell. It's like and people always say like, well, what's your return policy? Like, I don't have one because in the 3 years I've returned 2 boxes.
Wow.
So it's like, I don't want you to buy unless you are so excited to buy.
You have to come and fight
Yes.
me.
Like I don't want to talk you into this. I want you to see all this value that you would be getting and seeing like a lifestyle change that you would be getting in every way that it could bless your family. And I want you to be so excited to buy it.
Right.
So I think that's maybe the reason why it's been successful is because it just, I don't know, there's just so much more to the box than haircuts.
Yeah.
And there's so much more to the box than me standing on Instagram being like, and here's this box to buy, and here's this box to buy. It's like all of that really matters. But if you look at it in a whole, it becomes a no-brainer.
Right.
You know?
So.
Oh, and the other thing that I did that has been such a big success were affiliate marketing. And so we're pretty particular about who we work with.
Sure.
Because we want to make sure that our purpose is really shown through the boxes. One of the quotes that I love is your business is the body, your brand is the soul. And so it's like we really want people to understand like our business and our business model. And so affiliates have been, I can't even tell you how incredible they've been.
Yeah.
They've just taken this box and ran with it. And I mean, I have to credit them so much of our success because they've been monumental in helping.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you brought up a couple of really, really important points, I think. The first one is you figured out something that a lot of people never figure out, which is people care about why you do it more than necessarily what you do.
Right.
So for a new entrepreneur, how would you tell them or what kind of advice would you give them to find that? As opposed to just, okay, you got a good product, but you have to build around that product. Like what kind of advice would you give to them?
Honestly, find the purpose of the feeling that you want to give people.
Yeah.
Like what are you selling? You're not selling a product, you're selling a feeling and you're solving a problem. So first of all, what is the problem that you're solving and what's the feeling that you want them to have?
Oh, that's such
and
good
a lot
advice.
of times you can turn the mirror around and that's exactly the problem that solves for you. You know what I mean? So for me, it was like, well, this is how I live my life. Like this is what I'm so passionate about. And that's what I want other people to have. And so a new entrepreneur, it's like, okay, so say you sell baby clothes. A million other places sell baby clothes. But why are you selling baby clothes?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why are you selling jewelry? Why are you selling? I mean, there's so many things you've got to figure out why the problem that you're solving and the emotion that you want them to feel when they have your product.
I love that. Yeah, that's such good advice. Okay, so, and the second half of this, which you've done so well with, is on your affiliate side, you've found people that identify with that thing. How do you do that? How does that happen?
You know, I think we're more alike than we give us credit for. I think as moms and business owners, we struggle with the same things on different levels, right? And so I think just hitting the pain points of whether you have a lot of money or you don't have a lot of money, your why can look different. So when we reach out to the affiliates, you know, say there's some that you can tell, okay, they have it in their budget to be able to go give haircuts. Right. So their pain point could be, I don't want to take my kids in, like taking my kids with the time thing, right? And it's interesting because we let our affiliates tell us what their pain point is. It could be budget. It could be convenience. It could be not connecting with our kids, and this is a way to do that. It could be teaching your kids the value of money. It could be, you know, there's so many different things. And that's why I said we were pretty particular about who we work with, because we really want them to connect with the box. Because if they don't connect with the box, then it's just an empty product. Yeah. Right? I mean, we've still got the great tools and the instructions and everything, but that's not where we want to get our sales. We want to get our sales from like a meaningful purchase. Yeah. So it's been interesting to find people, and honestly, it's kind of been a snowball effect because we reached out a lot at the beginning, and then people now just find us and ask to work with us or get a box, and so that's awesome. I mean, that's one of the biggest compliments. Oh yeah, it's really cool.
Have
at this point.
you thought about like a scaling strategy where you don't have to be in the day-to-day? Is that kind of what you're thinking about? Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And we have, I mean, the first year it was the kids and I who did everything.
Right.
And then the second year I started hiring. So I've got about 9 employees now. And that's when I say I'm going to be on cruise control, what I'm really wanting to do is get systems and processes in order.
And say, go run
and
it.
So like, this is what you're good at.
Yeah.
Do your thing. This is
Right.
what you're good at. Do your thing. And I know the things that I'm good at and I like to do, and I want to do more of that. So, yeah, it's really exciting, and it's also a scary thing to do.
Yeah, well, you know, you can probably do a lot of those things better than any of those people can, and you're going to have to give them up.
Right. The other thing is, I think also as business owners and entrepreneurs, it's like there's always going to be someone more successful than you.
Sure.
There's always going to be something to do. And we can easily get caught in the rat race of just like climbing that mountain like hard every single day, which I have been guilty of doing many times. And I think it's, you know, at what expense? So I have to remind myself constantly of my purpose. Like what is the purpose? My main purpose of what I'm talking about is to create those lasting relationships with your people, and to create those memories, and to spend your time where it's needed. And so the last thing that I want to do is be a hypocrite when I'm saying that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think people will be able to tell, and more importantly, I'll be able to tell, and that just won't feel good to me. And so I really need to keep myself in check with my own purpose.
Nothing wrong with that.
So it feels really good.
Yeah. So you're going to have a little bit more time than maybe you've had in the last couple of years. What are you going to do with it?
Oh, man. I got so many plans. Well, we love to boat. We love to ride horses. We love to be in the mountains, camping, riding razors. We've recently got into dirt bikes. And so we're just, you know, we're your typical Idaho family that loves to do all the things. So I won't have a problem keeping myself busy having fun. And honestly, that's the way I unplug, because when I do something, it's 110%.
Yeah.
And so when I'm out on the boat, it's like it forces me to completely turn that off.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why I like to play so much, because if not, my brain is on overdrive.
Yeah.
So when I'm playing, I can be fully present, and I can just be with my family.
I love it. Yeah. I know for me, I have to have, when I'm taking time off, I need something engaging.
Yes.
Or it like doesn't work on me, if that makes any sense. Like it
does.
has to occupy my whole brain for it to work.
One of my friends told me something that was interesting. I'm sure I'm going to botch it, but she said,
end the meat before the meats ends.
Meats ends with the barbecue, something like. It was like, you have to, when you take a break, you have to take a break and not just put off what you know you have to do. That was a complete botched way of saying.
I think I follow.
Do you follow?
The meaning,
maybe
though.
more than the ends.
Yeah.
One?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I might maybe just need to take that quote out of my brain, or maybe just not share it anymore.
Just keep workshopping it.
I got it.
Okay, I
heard.
Thanks, Paley. But basically, like, there's a difference between putting off what you have to do, which is a lot of times when we're doing something not engaging. It's like, I'm just buying my time till I have to do that.
Yeah.
Versus actually taking a break,
right,
and letting your body take a break.
The old quote is that comes to mind for me is a bow that's always strung loses its spring.
Interesting. I've never heard that.
You gotta unstring the bow every once in a while, you know?
That is amazing.
You can use that anytime you want.
Thanks. I might replace. I might replace my battery. That's so true, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
and my personality, my mom is just like this superhuman of a person that just never stops. And I think I'm wired a little bit like her, and I have to consciously make myself stop.
Yeah.
Like I have to have a conversation with myself. Like, you have to take a break.
Yeah.
You have to stop doing this, or else, I mean, the bow would break.
You lose your spring.
You lose your spring.
That's what it is. Yeah. Okay, I got to ask, just because we've been talking about this. Worst haircut experiences. The worst one. What is it? What do you think? Bailey, do you have one?
You don't have a bad one? Have you ever given a
You've
haircut?
never had a bad haircut before? You've never?
I'm sure I have, but it doesn't
you just nothing sticks out?
Oh, probably when I was in college and I like tried to cut my own hair and it looked really bad. So probably that.
What happened to it? What did you do to it?
Just all bad. It didn't,
the whole thing.
Yeah, and it didn't help that the dorms in college had like chlorine in the water, and so my hair was turning like
Oh. It was
like
green
straw.
and like
Stringy and
yeah,
all
it
the
was
things.
really bad.
Oh, well, do you want to hear the one that
Yeah.
happened to me or the
Yeah.
one that I've given?
Both?
Ooh, both,
I want
yeah.
to hear both. Yeah.
I hope the girl isn't listening to this. I don't think she has social media, so we might be lucky. But she brought in her kid. He was 5 years old, and he was not excited to be there.
That's
and
a tall order to begin with. Yeah.
Right, and I was not excited to cut his hair.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, I think as stylists, we do the mom a favor.
Yeah.
Doing their kids' hair while their hair color's processing, right? I
Right.
think that's what happens. And majority of my stylist friends are like, I hate giving boy haircuts, but we love the mom.
Yeah.
So anyway, brought him in. He was not excited to be there. And he thrashed more than any kid. Like, I think I got punched a dozen times. Like, it was horrendous, but we were already too far in to give up. And so
Man.
finally, so she sat down.
Did you cut him on purpose?
I wanted
Did
to
you?
so bad. I wanted to so bad. She held him down like this, but he
Oh
was
my
still just
goodness.
like, his head was going crazy. I ended up putting him in a headlock. It was not a proud moment. The haircut looked horrendous. It looked horrendous. And the funny thing is she looked up at me and she was like, oh, can you fix this part right there?
You're like,
I'm like, can
No,
you
ma'am.
fix your child?
no, I
Yeah.
cannot.
I cannot. And it was like 45 minutes. I was sweating.
Oh.
I had hair everywhere. I was livid. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you get over it pretty quick. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna. Anyway,
I hope she left a good tip.
I don't think she did. The whole experience was horrible.
Yeah.
It was bad. The haircut that happened to me, I was at a beauty show in Vegas.
Mhm.
And we're in this big convention center. Have you seen it on my social media?
I think,
Actually,
yeah, I think
maybe I
have.
took it off.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I had pretty cool hair. Like it was
Mm.
kind of in like a longer mohawk, but the sides were long and it was cool. I was trying to grow a mohawk out. And
Yeah, we all went through that stage.
yeah, you know, we've all gone through
Yeah.
the grow out. But I was past the bad part.
Okay, yeah.
And the owner of Big and Sexy was up on the stage and his helper guy. And he looks at me and he points at me and he said, you have really cool hair. Can I trim it up and show people? And I'm like, me? Okay. Naively, not knowing what was in store.
He was going to cut it all off.
So I got up there, the first half of the haircut he was doing it, and I'm like, okay, I can tell he's
And this
doing,
is on stage in
this is
front of a
on
bunch
stage in
of
front
people.
of hundreds of people
I
in
love
this
this.
convention center.
Yeah.
And I don't know what he's going to do, right? He just told me he was going to trim it.
Yeah.
So halfway through the haircut, he's like, you know, she's got really good texture. I'm going to show you the newest haircut that's trending in New York City. And I'm thinking, dude, I am a small town girl in Idaho. I cannot have a New York hairstyle.
yeah,
Well,
they're going to think I'm an alien when I
it
go
was
home.
horrendous. It was basically shaved on one side. I had
Oh.
long pieces coming down on the back. The one side was fine, but the worst part was the very end of the haircut. He combed everything forward. And he was like, I'm going to show you how to cut some great fringe. And I'm like,
No.
no,
Please, no.
no. And my husband was actually taking a video and you could see it in my eyes of like, help me, help me, help me.
You're like
took the
Quint at the
scissors
end
and-
of Jaws.
Yes,
no,
yes,
no.
yes.
Yeah.
And he took the scissors from ear to ear, all the way
Oh,
like
no.
an inch long. And wet hair. So you know how that looked when it dried.
Yeah.
It was so awful. It was so awful. Bad enough that when we were walking down the strip for the rest of the vacation, people would stop me. Like, whoa, that's some hair. It was so bad. And it
Which
took,
is exactly what you want people to say.
which is exactly,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was my awful haircutting experience.
How long before you had it fixed? Like,
It was a good year.
wow.
Like there was no
well,
way
when
to
you
fix.
cut it
Yeah.
that short.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
no way
Yeah.
to fix. And
Oh.
it was back in the day where you know how you like used to twist your bangs,
Mhm.
like twist and then put like a bobby pin? Yeah. You couldn't even twist because it would like poke.
So what did you do with it?
I just tried to style it down and up, and there was no way.
There was
to
just nothing to do
Yeah,
with it.
there was no way. It was in the summer, so I'm pretty sure I wore hats a lot.
Yeah, that works.
But
Yeah.
honestly, like I tell people that story, and I've showed people the video and the picture, and they're mortified, which rightly so. And it's like, okay, but look at me now. Like, it didn't ruin me.
No, yeah.
I'm still here.
Quite the character building moment.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, take this. There's a lot of people with the haircut box that honestly have screwed up their kids' hair. Like, that's inevitable sometimes, right? And I'm like, you're not going to ruin your kid's life. Like, I had one of the worst haircuts I have ever seen, and my life wasn't ruined. So it's like, even if you give a bad haircut or get a bad haircut, it's going to be horrible for a while.
Yeah.
But it's not the end of the world.
For sure.
Like, it's just hair.
Yeah.
Like, it's just hair. So moving forward, my husband actually has cut my hair our entire married life.
Really?
Our entire married life, and he's horrible. He's done a really terrible job a lot of times.
Uh-huh.
And we've worked with it, and it's ended up being fine.
Mm.
So it's like, you know what? It's just hair. Like, I think a lot of times we put too much pressure on the perfect appearance or the perfect haircut or the perfect outfit. Mm-hmm. And in the end, it really doesn't matter.
Maybe it's not really that big a deal.
It's really not that big of a deal.
I don't frequently look at people and say, oh, man, that's not a very good haircut. I mean, I don't know that, like, I've probably literally gone years without thinking that
having that thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
maybe
and,
had
and
I seen you,
I
maybe I would have.
And really, I don't. Like, when I'm sitting in church, some people are like, oh my gosh, please don't look at my hair. And I'm like, I'm really not looking at your hair.
It's
like,
amazing.
Really
Nobody really cares that much.
Nobody really cares.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting.
Actually, but I'm being very hypocritical because I'm pretty sure I changed my outfit 15 times today. And on the way here, I'm like, no one cares. No one cares.
No, most people just listen to this and they're not even going to see your face.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you have it. Yeah. My daughters, my two oldest daughters, when they were young, they did the thing where they cut their hair, they cut each other's hair really short. Mm-hmm. And there was no saving it, down to the scalp in like many places.
Oh, that's rough.
So we just shaved their heads. And then my wife, who's a director with theater mostly, she got like a casting call email. And it was like, we're looking for a few orphan children.
She's like...
She sent the pictures, and they're like, we have to have these kids play orphans in this.
That is amazing.
So they're like in this short video where they're like these orphan children.
You're like, should we be proud of this?
Proud moment.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Sure. We're going to take this.
We got paid like $50 or something. And we're
that
like, okay,
is amazing.
That's pretty funny.
How old were they when you shaved their heads?
Let's see here. I think Nora, my oldest, was maybe 6. Then Charlotte would have been like 4, something like that. They're all better now, but yeah, it was pretty funny.
The funniest $50 you've ever made.
That's right. Yeah. And so so I'm from Texas originally, and we moved to Amarillo, Texas, up in the Texas Panhandle, and we had just gotten to town, and I was trying out different barbershops, and I hadn't quite found one that I liked. And so I was sitting in my office, and I was like, I need to go get my hair cut. So I, Google it or whatever. And I find the Union Barber Shop. And I was like, okay, that sounds pretty good. Let's go there. So I called to make an appointment. And they were like, what? You don't just come in here. What are you talking about? We don't make appointments. So like, oh, okay.
This is Amarillo.
Yeah. So I'm like, that sounds good. So I go in, and I open the door. And I'm the only white person there. And it's a bit like they're all black people in the whole shop. And it's like, in the movies where like the music stops.
Yes.
It was like
all conversation ends.
I walk in, and I'm like, hi, I came to get my hair cut. And they're like, all right, I guess come on up here. And the guy who cut my hair was the nicest man in the world. And it was this old man, and I get up and I sit in the seat, and he puts the the cape thing on, and he goes, I haven't cut a white man's hair since 1979.
Oh my gosh.
Dang.
And at that point, I'm like, I'm locked in. I can't
There's
walk
no
out now.
Back. Yeah.
I just don't have that amount of rudeness in me to be like, well, I don't think so, sir, and throw that cape on the ground. Right. And so he cut my hair, and he didn't own scissors. And so it's just clippers the whole way. And he was really apologetic and really nice.
Like, I don't know what I'm doing.
He's like, I'm doing the best I can here, son. I'm just doing the best I can. They're like, that's fine. It looks good. And then he didn't know how to style it after.
Oh, yeah.
So he put all this like Jerry curl in it and just flattened it down on my head. And I remember leaving and going home, and my wife was like, what happened? I was like, so I told her the story, and she's like, that is my favorite thing that's happened to you this year.
Oh my gosh, awesome. That is so funny.
They were so nice and friendly.
Oh,
and
that is so funny.
The guy gets done, and he like turns me to look in the mirror, and he's like, well,
we did we best.
Maybe you don't have to pay today.
That one's on the house.
That one's on the house.
Oh, that is so funny.
They were really nice.
I hope you took a picture.
There's got to be a picture.
There's got to be a picture that you've got to dig up.
Yeah,
because that would be so funny.
There's got to be one somewhere. Yeah, it was something.
Oh, that is too good. Story. My grandma always said, because my grandma always cut my dad and all of his brother's hair, and she's like, the difference between a good haircut and a bad haircut. 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Just let it grow out.
Well, and that's what I told the guy. I was like, it'll grow back. It's not a big deal. It's going to be fine. Yeah, it's not that big of a deal.
Oh, that is funny. That's a good one.
Oh, goodness. Okay, so gosh, you've slayed the dragon in so many ways. For those following in your footsteps, what would you tell them to do, and what would you tell them to not do?
At East Idaho Credit Union, we're changing the future of business with our Velocity Money Market account. You can receive unbeatable returns on tiered interest rates. We have rates up to 2.02% annual percentage yield. East Idaho Credit Union puts local businesses first, because when you do better, we all do better. Federally insured by the NCUA.
You've slayed the dragon in so many ways. For those following in your footsteps, what would you tell them to do, and what would you tell them to not do?
I would tell them to start. I would tell them to start without having all the answers, without feeling like you're actually ready to start, because I don't think that feeling exists.
Yeah.
Of I've got everything under control.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times we talk ourselves out of our best ideas. So no one else is going to tell us that our ideas are dumb, but it's just the verbiage in our brain that stops all of these good ideas. And so that would be my number one advice, is to just start. Find something that you're passionate about. Find why you're passionate about that. Find the feeling that you want to have when you do it, and let someone else, when they partake of your business, and then just start. Some really advice that I got when I started was, you don't have to have all the answers. Yeah. And this doesn't have to be your final draft.
Right. Yeah.
Because I mean, that was so hard to make all of those decisions, and releasing that fear of, this is my final draft forever and ever. Amen. Was really freeing. Of, this is a good first draft. It's a really good place to start.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm probably going to adjust things as we grow, but those two things, start, and don't hold yourself captive to this being what you're going to do forever.
Right. Yeah. I think that's great advice.
And also, something that I didn't do that I wish I would have done is to set boundaries with yourself. We talked about like climbing so hard and so fast, and I think like the hustle culture, I hate that so bad. Like I said, even though I've been guilty of that, but you're the only one in charge of your deadlines. I'm the only one in charge of when I launch things, and when things are done, and when things aren't done.
Yeah.
And so we put most of the pressure and the stress on ourselves, which is a hard thing to be honest about, but try not to pressure yourself with unrealistic deadlines. Set yourself up for success.
Yeah. That's great advice. So for a young entrepreneur who's just starting, what would you say? Hey, this was a huge mistake I made. Don't do this thing. What would you tell them?
Probably an unpopular idea as well.
Oh, I love these.
But what has really helped me not get burnt out is to put my blinders on. Every once in a while I'll think, oh, they're doing something really cool, or they're doing something that works. And I think you do that because you don't want to recreate the wheel all the time.
Right.
But you've got to go forward with your blinders on and make it genuine and authentic to who you are, what you're wanting to do. And I think and that will just make it feel so much better for you and so much better for your people. Not focusing on the number count or the views or all those things that really aren't that important.
Yeah.
Because you could have 100,000 followers, but if nothing converts, then all you've got is 100,000 people that are just listening to you.
Right.
You could have 1,000 followers, but every single one of them convert, and
Way
you're
more
better
valuable.
off
Yeah.
than having that. You know what I mean? And I learned that lesson when I launched, because 742 people.
Right. Yeah.
I was like, holy cow! I mean, comparatively to people that had huge followings, I felt like it was a drop in the bucket. But those 742 people showed up.
Yeah.
And those were my people. And those people converted. And it's been really cool. Like yesterday, how I said, I want to know who's been here since the beginning. And so many people had been there. And it was just like such a feeling of gratitude of, these are my people.
Right.
And I think when you put your blinders on, you and speak to those people, to your ideal client, you're going to lose some. And that doesn't feel good. That never feels good to lose people, because it's like the scarcity mentality of like, I need more and more and more. But what you really need is you need more of your ideal client.
Right.
And when you start to speak to your ideal client, those people will just show up.
Right. Yeah.
You've done so well with social media, and I think you have a lot of really great advice to offer here. I want to ask about for the person who maybe thinks, oh, I don't have enough content, I can't keep this going. What advice would you give them?
First of all, everything's content, right? Everything is content. You can turn everything into content. And if they don't feel like they have enough content, then I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is they haven't locked down what their purpose is.
Yeah.
Because if you have a purpose, you can turn anything into content.
Yeah. And
your purpose should be like this never-ending flow of like, I could talk about this for hours. So if you know that, if you are set on that, then content you should never run out of content.
Right.
And I know that some businesses are harder than others to show content, but you can always reframe your purpose. They say, your purpose is your story said in a million different ways. So it's not like I get on social media like, my purpose is for families to spend time together. You know what I mean? How I'm showing my purpose is I'm actually spending time with my kids, or I'm actually showing you that, yeah, I save this money and I'm going to spend it on this. And you probably don't agree, and you probably don't agree. And I don't care, because that's what I want to do.
Right.
And so I'm hoping to like empower others that they can do the same, even though it's not what their neighbor would want. So I think the problem isn't content. I think the problem probably is the purpose and not nailing that down clear enough.
That's
really good
such
advice.
good advice. Yeah. Really, really good advice. I see so many people get locked up on, I don't know what to do next. Yeah. And it's not a content problem,
It's not really a content problem.
Yeah.
And we're all busy. No one has ample amount of time that they're just like twiddling their thumbs like, oh, I wonder what I should do today to keep me busy. And so I think the other thing too is to not fill your page of fluff. I mean, fluff is funny. Fluff is cute. Fluff is, but it's like, make sure that you're adding value.
Right. Yeah.
Because the last thing that I want people to do is scroll my page with like useless stuff. I want to really, if you're going to watch my stuff, I want to add value to your life and not waste your time. So figure out, in any business, figure out what's going to add value. And what's normal to you may not be normal to other people.
Yeah.
Like, I love to see behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I love to see things that they're going through, or I don't know, there's so many things that you could show in every single business to let people in a little bit more, even though that is hard to do, and that takes some serious vulnerability to show lots of everything.
Yeah.
I think that's important. And I think that's where like the know, like, and trust, like they know you. If you show those things and get vulnerable, they like you, and then they'll be able to trust you.
Yeah. It's so scary for people to like part the curtain a little bit and let them see like the absolute nonsense that goes on behind the scenes.
Yes.
Like how dirty the space is and like how haphazardly it's all coming together.
Yes.
It's so scary for people to do that.
Oh, yes.
Because they think, I can't let a potential customer see what a ridiculous thing this actually is behind the scenes.
Like I can't let people know that I pack these boxes out of my basement.
Right.
That also doubles as a baseball field.
Right.
That also doubles as our football field. That also doubles as our TV room. That also, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Our storage room.
Yeah. That I'm putting my children to work.
That I'm putting my children
this.
to work. and I don't have this like beautiful office. I mean, for heaven's sakes, it's in my bedroom and you can see into my dirty closet. I should change that. But you know what I mean? It's just like, I've shown it hundreds of times and it's been very eye-opening, the response that I've got of like, thank you for showing us the real parts of your life. Thank you for showing us how it actually looks. I remember the very first time that I posted a tutorial. I was filming a tutorial on my little guy and he lost his mind. And it was, I mean, I was sweating. He was sweating. He had snot drooling down. Hair was in his snot. I mean, it was a horrible haircut. It was horrible. And I was...
Follow me for more tips.
Yeah, seriously. I'm going to teach you how to do this because I know everyone wants this. And I sat on that for a few days like, oh, that was awful. That was so awful. But I got the haircut done.
Yeah.
And I ended up posting it. And it was one of those moments where I posted it and my heart was beating so fast because it was such a look into my normal life that I had to go walk out in our horse corral for like 20 minutes. Like, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. And I came back to just comments of like, that is exactly what happens to my house. And what's interesting and what sets me apart is people think that that's only happening to them because they don't know what they're doing. I have 14 years of professional experience. And that also happens to me.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes a professional can't magically make your kid sit still. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that was there's been a lot of little drops along the way that have solidified things of vulnerability makes a big difference. A look into the back end of things makes a big difference. Showing who you really are makes a big difference.
Yeah. I had this video I posted, it's probably been 3 or 4 years ago now, that's on YouTube. And it's me actually out in the pasture just catching a horse, and he didn't want to be caught. And in real life, it took me like 45 minutes.
Oh.
You've been there.
I know that feeling.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
and you're
yeah.
saying all kinds of things.
Oh, yeah. Trying to give the horse some motivation.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And it was a video of me talking about like how to handle a horse. And it was like I felt so stupid. And I was like, so I'm talking to my wife and we're editing it after. And I was like, we got to cut that out. And she's like, I think maybe you leave it. And I was like, it's so like embarrassing.
Right.
And she's
I don't
like,
want anyone to think that I would.
that my horse wouldn't just come to me at my beck and call.
I'm supposed to be the expert on all areas.
And she's like, I think you got to leave it in because people need to see how to handle it, what happens there. And so we time-lapsed it and put like funny music to it. Me just like following this horse around the pasture, right? And it still took like 4 minutes of me, even when we time-lapsed it, it was still long. And it performed super, super well. And people were it was a lot of people who were struggling with the same problem. And they were just like, oh my gosh, thank you for showing us what that looks like, how to do that, how to handle that. And it totally shifted my own mentality around what's okay to show people.
For sure. And even if you don't have the right answer or all the answers, I think just showing people that they're not alone in what they're dealing with will also just empower them to push forward. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yep. It's like, I don't have all the answers. I'm supposed to be the expert, but we're in this together. Like if I can show that we're struggling with the same things, then it's almost like, okay, let's link arms and let's do this thing.
Yeah, that's right.
You know?
We're a team. Yeah.
Right. Like I'm going to go watch that video because I'm currently experiencing that. I tried to go out and feed my horses apples the other day. They wouldn't even come to me. And I was like, oh, great. We're going to have a rough spring.
Yeah.
Even just getting the horse to the halter with the saddle. Like, it's going to be a long one.
This particular horse, I would like hide the halter like in my shirt and he'd be fine. And then I'd like pull it out of my shirt and be like, nope.
And how are they so fast?
Oh,
instant.
Yeah.
Instant.
Irritating.
Yes, it is irritating. It is so irritating.
It's pretty funny, actually. Yeah. My wife has said that she could turn the things that I say to the horses while like in that moment into like inspirational quotes.
Oh my gosh. You have to do that.
That would be so good.
Like you have to do that.
Most of it can't be repeated in polite company. Oh, boy.
That's funny.
Okay, so we talked about this, I think, before we started rolling. I want to go back to it, though.
Okay.
You made some interesting mentions of like your schedule. Up at 5 or 6, 4. I don't even remember what you said now. It was early. Early. Take the kids to school, back to it. Kids come home, back to it till midnight. This is one of the things that people struggle with so much is how to like balance their time appropriately and how to figure out how do I make my life fit in with this business that I'm trying to start.
Totally.
What do you tell them? What's the advice?
Well,
there?
I am not the expert because I'm still trying to figure this out. And I've done different things.
Yeah.
But there's a few things that I feel like set myself up for success in every time that I've tried. So I always have my morning routine that I do every morning. I usually go to the gym 4 or 5 times a week, get home at 7, get my kids off to school by 8. And then between 8 and 9, I vacuum my house, clean up breakfast, prep dinner, shower, get ready. Mm-hmm. And I feel like having a routine in the morning just sets your day up for success of like whatever it is. It doesn't need to be what mine is, but any set of routine will get yourself going. But what I have done this last year is that's 9 o'clock. Then I start working at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then I usually work really hard and really focused until about noon.
Yep.
Then I have lunch with my little guy. And then I bust it out for another like 1 to 2 hours. And then as soon as the kids are home, I put my phone down. I don't get on social media. I don't get on emails. And then I don't pick it back up until they're in bed.
Yeah.
And that's been different than what I've done in the past. And it's really made a big difference in the feeling like I'm more balanced and feeling like I'm not working all the time. Yeah. I mean, and even, sometimes work is really fun. Yeah, a lot of times it's more fun than doing kid stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Don't
say it too loud, but yeah.
I know, I had to whisper. So it's like a lot of times it's like, well, I could either help you with your homework or I could get on Instagram and have a good time with my friends on Instagram. And
my wife has been like, why do you spend so many time at work, so many hours at work? I'm like, it's my boss. He just works me to the bone. Yeah.
Right. So it can be hard, which sounds funny.
Yeah.
That it's hard to not work so much.
It's so tough to be like so hyper focused and obsessed and then to just turn it off.
Yes.
It's really hard.
And so that's what I've done in the past. I really haven't turned it off. And so it's always going in the back of my brain. And I'm always trying to just like squeeze it in like the sand and the rocks, But this year has made a big difference. And this has actually been my favorite schedule of from 3 to 9. Mm-hmm. Like I'm MIA. Mm-hmm. And it takes some serious self-control of I see the phone there. I see things coming in and I'm like, okay.
It'll be there at 9.
I really want to do exceptional customer service. But they can wait an hour. They can wait 5 hours.
That's
know?
Yeah.
And then I usually, so my husband's an accountant, so he works until midnight. So during tax season, then I will start again at like when the kids are in bed and work till midnight.
Yeah.
So I have made a deal with kids because I think it's important for your kids to also understand how much work it takes because they've seen the success and they've seen also the failures, but it's hard for them to like link things. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, I work really hard to be able to do this.
Yeah.
I work really hard so we can do this, but you guys have to help me.
Yeah.
And so one of our deals, which Sometimes they're not great at. But our deal is when it's bedtime, it's bedtime.
Mm.
So if you like, I won't work while you're awake, but you need to help me out in going to bed when I ask you to go to bed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I'm like, if I spend an hour trying to put you to bed, that's an hour less time that I get to spend with you. So there has been times, like I was saying earlier, like when I was starting out, I would get up at 5 and I would work for 2 hours. And then I wouldn't go to the gym because I didn't have time to go to the gym.
Right.
I wouldn't have time to do anything for myself.
Right.
And then I would get the kids off to school and I would work all day, pick them up from school. And it was almost like I was a half of a human, a half of a mom when I was trying to get this launched, because I was so hyper-focused that I hate even verbalizing this, but everything that the kids did was annoying to me. Like they were just taking me away from what I wanted to do.
They were distractions.
It was just a complete distraction.
Yeah.
And it was a really hard emotional roller coaster because, of course, then I had guilt because that's what I was perceiving them as. And so I really had to work, and I'm still working at the balance of they're not a distraction. They should be my main focus. Yeah. And no amount of success in my business is worth having these relationships. You know, and the thing that cuts me to the core is something about motherhood. You know, like my daughter one time told me that she felt like my business was more important than her. And I just
Did you hit her?
I wanted to. You don't know what you're saying. It like cut me to the core.
Oh, yeah.
And she just kind of said it in passing. Kind of was just like your business is more important than us anyways.
Ugh.
And I
could hear that tone too.
I'm like trying to hold back tears actually. Yeah. Like I can like those feelings came back and I'm like, I refuse to let my kids think that. And it was really hard. And it was a pivotal moment also of like, she's right. Like she's right. And I can be as defensive as I want about it, but I know she's right. And so, and you know, that's happened 3 or 4 times where without even trying, they make a comment and I know that they're right. And I know that I have to change things. And it's like the biggest pill of pride that I have to swallow of like, okay, I've got to refocus and realign and it always ends up being good. But that is the hardest thing about owning a business is the balance, because there's a balance between being a mom. And I want to be the best mom there ever was. You know, I just want that. That's so important to me. I want to be a really good wife. Yeah. And I also want to be a human and an individual. And I want to be a good friend. And I want to be a good daughter and a good sister. And you only have so much bandwidth. And so, you know, you've got to just put those things into place and really try to put your priorities in place. That's easy to do, but actually take those priorities and putting them into action is where the struggle is. Yeah. You know? Yeah,
I do know. Gosh, so interesting that you bring up a comment by your daughter. My kids are, in so many ways, my biggest supporter.
Right.
But they will not hesitate to cut you to your core. And and they're so truthfully good at it. Because it's always like the stuff that is really real to you.
Yes.
And they'll say something and you're just like, oh, I know you're right.
I know you're right.
And it hurts that you said it. So in some ways, I've looked at them as some of my like most valuable critics.
100%.
Because I mean, that one comment to you completely altered the way you thought about what you were doing.
Completely altered.
And she was right.
She was right.
Yeah, that's the
and
hard
I
part.
hate to admit that, but she was right.
And my kids do it to me too. And I hate to admit it, but they're right a lot of the time.
And a lot of times you have to just fight back being defensive about it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, And I have done this. I'm like,
oh, we all have.
well, you realize that because I do this, we get to do, and all these things. And then I'm like,
remember that meal I just cooked for you? Remember that? Yeah, bet you don't.
I bet you don't. You didn't even say thank you. And you didn't finish it. So, there's so many things. And it's like, that's not what they need. Because when they make those comments, they're not trying to cut you.
Well, and that's what's so beautiful about it,
right.
is they ultimately care and love for you more than maybe anybody on the planet.
Right.
When other people make these kind of critical comments, there's almost always some motive around them.
Right.
But with your kids, their only motive is, Mom, Dad, I love you.
Right. Yeah.
Which just pisses me off about it. Yeah.
So bad, right? It's so bad. Yeah, those are the things that cut me to the core the most, but then are also the most influential.
Helpful. Yeah,
they're the most helpful. And it's interesting because a lot of times the comments that they make isn't reality, but it's what they're catching. Yeah. Right? So a lot of times they're onto something, but it doesn't matter what are facts. It matters how they're perceiving it. Yeah. So even though, the comment is like, well, do I think my business is more important than my kids? Absolutely not. Right. Like, she's not right. Right. But that's how she feels. Yeah. And that's her truth. And so I've got to respect of how she feels. Yeah.
And clearly I've done a poor job.
At showing that because there's so many things that I do that they don't. My kids are still little, right? Yeah. So it's like they don't understand that I work my guts out to do X, Y, and Z for them. Right. But what matters right now is how they're feeling. And I don't want the business to ever be a sore spot in them. Yeah. Yep. And the first year they helped me fulfill so many boxes. And now I do make them work.
Did they like it at first? We're like, this is fun.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it. Yeah. Plus, I did pay them.
Sure.
So I was like, you want a dirt bike? I want you to have a dirt bike. How many hours do you have to work?
Time to earn one.
Right. Yeah, and so it was cool. Yep. And I won't name names, but I also try not to force it. There's sometimes where I'm like, we have no choice. Get downstairs. I need you to do capes, and you're on water bottles, and you're on suckers. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I try really hard not to make it like a sore subject of, let's go do haircut box stuff. Yeah. It's a choice, but I also try to make that choice positive of well, this child worked, and so therefore she gets this money to buy this, and you didn't, and that was a choice.
So how about that?
So sorry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the other thing we were talking about before we turn the cameras on, historical figure.
Oh my goodness.
You would most want to have lunch with.
How about you answer that?
Yeah, she literally said that is one question.
I don't care what you ask me, but the only thing that's off the table is a historical figure.
I know. Isn't that funny?
Steven,
but I'm
the host, so I get to do that.
You're the host. You're in charge.
That's right.
Who would I have lunch with?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Who do you want to talk to?
I did tell you Abe Lincoln, but that wasn't my answer. I actually would love to talk to my great grandpa.
Oh,
I knew both my grandpas, my great grandpas. But I would love to talk to them in their when they're my age.
Oh, that's
right?
such a great
because
answer.
There was a lot of things that they did, choices that they made, some good and some bad, that I would just love to pick their brains because it's interesting to see the ripples of their effects or their choices, good and bad. So I would, like you were talking earlier, even bad things, you would love to know what the motive was behind that. That's my answer.
I love that answer, actually.
Historical figure.
Super good answer. Yeah.
Thanks for asking me the one question that I asked you not to.
It was my favorite question on the list. How could I not do it?
How could you not do it? And you are the boss.
Mentors, resources, podcasts, books.
Okay, I love the book Atomic Habits. I love the book Go Giver. The book that I'm currently listening to is, the title is Never Split the Difference.
Yeah,
it's all about. Have you read that one?
Yeah, I just got done reading it again.
Oh, really? Yep. It's all about negotiating. I loved those mentors. My brother-in-law really helped me at the very beginning with analytics and data. My sister-in-law was the one that we were in her cabin sitting, and she was like, I know you can do something. I know you can do something more. Let's think of what you're good at. And that's when I said, like, budgets, having fun. My husband has been like the biggest support and the biggest cheerleader. He was like, let's do it. And I'm like, okay, but there's a lot of startup costs. And he's like, let's do it. Like, there's a reason why we saved money.
Yeah.
Like, let's just invest in yourself. Inspiration. My other grandpa is my biggest hero. And he always says it isn't oh my gosh. I botch a lot of quotes. I'm learning that about myself. Right?
They've all been entertaining regardless.
Right.
Yeah.
He says it isn't about the man in the size of the man in the fight. It's about this. The size of the fight in the man.
I know. Yeah.
And you know, so it's like anytime I have imposter syndrome, I'm like, I can do this.
Yeah.
I can do this. My grandpa is like he is on the highest pedestal that you could put someone. And then probably my last inspiration is my grandma on the other side. And she had 9 kids. And she cut their hair at home. And I remember hearing this story when I was little. Isn't it funny when you like stories that stick with you?
Yeah.
And she's a beautiful pianist and an organist. And she's got a piano room where her beautiful grand piano is here and her organ is here. And I remember her telling me the story one time that she cut all of her kids' hair. And she paid herself and she put it in a jar. And that's how she bought her grand piano.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
And I remember hearing that story and being like, okay, now that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, my grandma's cool.
Yeah.
Like, she's awesome. And she, like I was saying at the very beginning, set yourself a goal and do it. And so she's been, without knowing, she's been such a huge inspiration of this whole thing. And I mean, hers was actually haircuts. So she was right on the money with like inspiration for this whole thing.
Yeah.
Really
That's
cool.
incredible.
Yeah, it was really cool. And honestly, like, just family.
Yeah.
I'm blessed with super.
Are you ready for this?
Okay.
In 30 years, your kids will be saying the same thing about you.
Now you're going to make me cry.
I'm serious.
You're gonna
make me cry
over
I'm
that one.
serious.
That's a good one.
I don't know that we totally understand the effect that we have on the people around us, especially in the moment. I bet your grandma didn't know that would be something that you would latch on to and talk about today, right?
Right.
The little choices that we make every day that cascade into these larger things are so deeply influential to the people who are around us and the people that look to us. And I've always felt like this deep responsibility to try and do my very best, and I'm a deeply flawed person, to set the right kind of example to be able to give my kids and my nieces and nephews and my sisters and friends little nuggets that hopefully make an impact in their life.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah, that's going to be you.
Last night, our 30-year anniversary, I got all sorts of, it was such a good day. And last night I was laying by my girls and I said, I want to know what working with the haircut box means to you. And my 8-year-old said, it makes me really proud. She goes, and it makes me realize that I'm really smart. And I was just like, okay, keep the tears back.
That's monumental.
I mean, it was just like for her to have that feeling of, I'm so proud. I'm so proud of this. And she wasn't saying, I'm so proud we've made money.
Right.
I'm so proud. It was like she was so proud of it in a whole. Like, it's not about money.
Yeah.
It's not about money. It's not about the things. It's just like you're proud of what you're representing.
Right.
And that answer that she gave last night, I was like, that's what it's all about.
Well, you have this little girl say, I learned that I'm smart.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something she's going to carry with her forever.
I learned that I can do things.
I can do something that's hard.
So she actually got invited to be, like, I can't remember what it's called in her school, but one of the leaders in her school. And she had to fill out a resume. And on that, she was like, and I've already started 2 businesses and I'm an employee for that. And she started her own business this summer.
I love it.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like, our kids are just so freaking cool.
Yeah.
And it's so cool. Well, I mean, we pass on a lot of bad things to our kids, right? But it's so cool that it's like they are learning little things, like you said, little nuggets here and there that you're just hoping that they'll grasp and learn.
Yeah.
What's your message to the world?
That's a good question. My message would be to find your people, do what it takes to create strong relationships and create memories with them, and let everything else fall to the wayside. Short, simple.
I like it. You got a quote on that or anything like that?
I'm going to give up with the quotes. How about I just pin them on Pinterest and then reshare. I've learned that not the same thing when I try to requote.
I'm just teasing. That's a great one, though. That's really, really good. Ashley, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been awesome.
This has been so fun.
Been really, really fun.
It's been so fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. We'll have to do it again.
Okay, let's do it.
Thank you for joining us on the Dragon SLYR podcast by East Idaho Credit Union. We'll see you next time.
Woo!
That was so fun.